hearing voices.
Some simple apologies. I'll just run through the apologies from Councillor Ward. I'll move that we accept those apologies, and we'll second it. Second Councillor Hall. Put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to confirmation of the agenda, we only have one item. Do we need that moved and seconded, Pamela?
Yeah, it was the one that you said.
Okay. So I'll move confirmation of the agenda, seconded by Councillor Gazette. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. We have the standard declaration of interest as item number 3. Everyone understands the obligation here. Moving on to item 4, which is the temporary road closure for event at the Octagon. And I just welcome the staff up here, Richard, Michael and Carol, maybe.
Okay.
Kate, is there anything that you would like to comment as just introducing the report, or maybe Doug may comment or anything?
Can you move the mic down, Andrew?
Just speak up a little bit more, could you please, Kate?
Sorry. And I'm happy to move when it suits.
Thank you. I do the thrust of what you said. I think it's as you say, it's pretty much in the report from the subcommittee anyway. So thank you, Doug. Is there anything that you wanted to comment?
Yeah, just in C on the subcommittees was recommends that the council investigate options at an early opportunity for facilitating the closure. As I suggested at the hearing, it should be up to the residents in that area, or the occupants of the buildings, that they should be talking to each other, because the region didn't really object to the closure. They wanted more. They wanted more of a working party, and that's something they should be doing themselves. They shouldn't be relying on the council. They should be able to facilitate that themselves prior to any of these things, and then just come to council for the actual closing, rather than come to the council and expect the council to go and do the liaison for them. Yeah.
There you go. Staff, Michael, Richard, any comments?
Not at this time. I think if we're moving on to the report, Michael could probably give a summary of the report, and then we're happy to take questions on it if there are any.
Okay, so we'll move on to the report, Michael.
Okay. So basically, obviously you had the application to close the lower octagon on the weekend of the rugby test. So that's the 6 a.m. Friday the 24th of June until 11 a.m. on the Sunday. There was an objection to that proposal, and the road stopping subcommittee met to hear that on the 17th of June. After this report was sort of finalised, the findings of the road stopping subcommittee are presented as an supplementary agenda item. So so I guess the purpose of the report is really to seek council approval for the road closure or otherwise.
Thank you. Questions? David.
Thank you. Just a question in respect of the objection to the closure proposal. Can you give us any information about the status of that objection? I mean, I'm specifically interested in finding out whether that was a decision made by the trust board or whether it was something an individual decided to do. Do we know that?
So we had an email from the Director of the Region confirming that the board had met to discuss the objection. That was after the initial letter had been put in, and the decision was made that the objection was to remain and they're not being withdrawn, so it was a board decision.
Any other queries?
Are we standing, or are we just?
We probably should because we have a meeting standing.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Under options, number 6, and I take it, sorry, Michael, you've written this report, have you? Yeah. Under 6, you said procedurally the council would need to be careful if it wants to depart from the road stopping's recommendation. So we get a careful warning here. And then it says, this is because the Road Stopping Committee has had the benefit of being able to read, listen to and fully consider the submissions. And further you warn that before deciding to depart from the Road Stopping Subcommittee's recommendations, the Council would need to be satisfied that it was fully appraised, that it had fully appraised itself of the contents of the submissions, the details of the attached report, and the details in the subcommittee's recommendation. This seems to be a fairly strong warning that also seems to carry to me the implication that councillors might not appraise themselves of the contents of the submissions, might not look at the details in the attached report. And that is the reason we need to be careful to go against the recommendation. Is it because you think that we might not have looked at these things carefully that we need to be careful?
Just before you answer, Carolyn, just to be clear, you're referring to the original agenda.
Yes.
Page 729, paragraph 6.
Yes.
No, it's not because we're concerned that you won't have read the material. It's just that the subcommittee has the benefit of being able to see the people who are providing submissions and hear from them directly, whereas when it comes to the council, you're one step removed. So it's procedurally open to you to decide to not follow the subcommittee's recommendation, but we just flag it as one of the things that the council needs to consider, is that the subcommittee has had the benefit of seeing all of the objectives or submissions and speakers at the time, and so for that reason, if you're not going to follow the subcommittee's recommendation, then just we put it in here so that it's fully
To make sure that we've read the submissions and the attached report.
and
Which I believe we would have done anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Moving along. If we go to page 27 of 29, and I'm sorry, I'm referring to the original agenda. Under the law, in terms of what we're allowed to do in closing a road, there are options C, D, and E. C being if public disorder is anticipated, D being if it's considered desirable that traffic be diverted, and E being if it's for various things, including a sporting event. Is it C, D, or E that you are taking the legal avenue through to propose the road closure?
E, section E.
Okay, given that it's E then, there are a number of requirements under E, and one of them is that you need to be careful to ensure that that it won't impede traffic unreasonably. Given that we're talking about a 2-hour event on Saturday, why is it that we are looking at 3 full days and 2 nights to impede the traffic? And are we entitled, in fact, to close the road for more than 24 hours for a 2-hour event? Where I'm getting to is that I can see a rationale for closing it from 6 a.m. on Saturday to 6 a.m. Sunday. But to have it closed from 6 a.m. Friday, under the law as I read it, given that you're using section E to justify this road closure. 3 days seems an exceptionally long time for a 2-hour event, at some distance I would add.
Question
And
will take 3 days at this stage.
If you don't mind. And the suggestion that a 3-day drink-a-thon is required in the whole of the Octagon and Lower Stewart Street for a 2-hour event, I am concerned that we're seriously pushing the bounds of what we're allowed to do in terms of impeding traffic under E of the Act. Yeah, the question is, how do you justify closing the road for the extra 2 days, under section E, which specifically says that you're not allowed to do that basically if it's likely to impede traffic unreasonably? What's reasonable about the extra 2 days of closing the traffic?
Richard?
So the key reason for the length of time is to allow the applicants to set up the areas, which is the purpose of the lodging of the application for traffic management plan, is to set up their extension to their premises, and they have statutory requirements under the building that they need to meet, and they need time to construct those and have them inspected and be ready to operate on the Saturday. That's where the extra time prior to comes from. To your second part of your question around the section E and likely to impede traffic unreasonably, the assessment of the traffic team based on the traffic management plan that has been submitted and based on our knowledge of how that area operates under a similar traffic management plan, which is put in place at reasonably regular occurrences, that won't unreasonably impede traffic through that area.
And Kate, would you, just before you stay seated just a moment, Kate, did you want to cover anything else off that Richard hasn't touched on in terms of that answer?
And part of it is it was advertised as such as part of the road closure and required, and was supported by all of the parties there. And on that basis, I didn't think that we had any, we should be questioning that, and that even the region didn't oppose that part of it.
Okay, thank you.
Just another question for you then, Richard. Under the applications and the submissions in favour of the plan, you said the reason for the extra time was because of the set-up time required. In the applications, the set-up time is very clearly stated to be 6 hours for the marquees, which takes you from 6 a.m. onwards for 6 hours, and 3 hours for sound and lighting, which means they could be well set up by midday Saturday and not have to have the extra day and night beforehand for the set-up reasons. So your argument that they need all this extra time to set up actually fails by virtue of their own application. So I ask you again, why is it that we are giving 3 days and 2 nights of traffic closure for an event which can, under their own application terms, plainly be catered for in a 24-hour period?
So we've assessed what's been applied for, which was the closure from Friday morning through to Sunday. Obviously, for the applicants, that's the period in which they would like the traffic management plan implemented, and our assessment of that is that is suitable under Section E.
Okay, I find it interesting that you find it suitable under Section E, but just moving along then, the applicants obviously want a very large amount of time for this event. Is there a precedent for having 3 days and 2 nights closure of the central city for an event? Has this happened here before? Or has it happened perhaps in Christchurch or in, say, Auckland for downtown Queen Street, where they've actually closed under Section E a major roading network section for an event for 3 days as opposed to just for the event day?
I may be able to help, but my recollection of when has occurred for a similar type of event, i.e. Rugby World Cup or previous tests, is that they have applied for a similar time frame in the past. That's my understanding.
Yeah, sorry. That would be similar in terms of our activities such as the World Cup had similar closures, and we have at other events, St Patrick's Day, where they do apply for temporary traffic management plans. Can't specifically say of something that is exactly this time frame over that period for that reason, but there are other examples of closures over long periods for temporary events.
Given the setup time that appears in the applications and in the submissions, would you agree that the main reason for the 3-day closure is to extend essentially what I describe as the drink-a-thon?
I don't think that's a fair question for staff to answer.
Well, is it the commercial interests of the applicants that is resulting in the 3 days rather than the requirements under Section E of the Traffic Management Act?
I can't answer that. I can state that's what's been applied for. I can't speak to the commercial reasons for doing so, but that's the time period that's been applied for and assessed by staff and heard by the subcommittee, and the outcome is as presented in the report.
Fine, thank you. I'd just like to shadow that I would like to propose an alternative motion exactly the same as the recommendation, except for restricting the hours to 6 a.m. Saturday to 6 a.m. Sunday.
Did you want to respond?
Look, just to say that we had present and speaking in support of the hours and the recommendations, Chris Lemon, who is the acting sergeant, I think.
Yes.
And he supported the proposal in full.
Okay, thank you. Yes, John.
Sorry, I did have one more question, but it can wait.
If you're finished with questions, I was just going to move the recommendations A and B.
And Lee, and obviously everyone understands what Lee is foreshadowing.
And I had one more question.
Okay, so I assume that when I take John's motion, you're going to see it there.
No, I had a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, my last question, for the moment at least, was that there are several references in the paperwork to the police being satisfied that a road closure is in the interest of safety. Have we got a letter from the police that specifies what exactly they are interested in terms of safety? For instance, what part of the road and what time? Do we have a copy of the letter that we can be circulated from the police explaining what is claimed in the applications?
Can I just make a comment? I did attend the hearing, which sat in the public gallery, and listened to the submissions presented, which included Sergeant Lemon from the New Zealand Police, and I clearly heard him say that, as recorded in the minutes, exactly what he said. Their view was that they were keen to create a safer environment simply because of the large number of pedestrians likely to be in that space at that time, particularly before and after the test match on Saturday. They believed, and if this road stopping wasn't approved, they were certainly under the Act that they had the ability to close roads anyway for public safety. They would pursue that to ensure that they achieved the road stopping, to ensure they achieved public safety, simply because of the numbers.
Right, but Sergeant Lemon was concerned mainly for the period before the game and after the game, and I completely sympathise and understand that, which would, to me, be the 24 hours surrounding the game. Did he specifically say that for safety reasons that the road should be closed on all of Friday as well and all of Sunday?
I didn't hear him identify. He was really referring to, he highlighted the point that we're going to be a lot of people in the octagon space before and after the game, but clearly there will be visitors to the city that will spend time in the octagon space leading up, obviously Friday night, and potentially Sunday morning.
Some for sure.
He the end of the day, he fully supported the application from 6 a.m. on Friday to 11 a.m. on Sunday, so he can differentiate.
Okay, but that was all made verbally as you've described, and you haven't had an official letter from the police in that regard?
I'll have to check with, there's no official submission from the police.
We did have some written documentation from the police, but it contained a lot of operational things that the police didn't want to be circulated at the time. So they said that they would prefer just to come along and speak to the council and convey their position verbally.
So you've had a non-public letter from the police, but the reason we haven't seen it, even in non-public, is because you don't like non-public.
So the police requested to come and speak. The information they provided us contained operational information. They asked for that not to be circulated, and again they were very clear in their verbal submission last week that they were in support of the application that was in front of them, being Friday morning to Sunday morning, and that was their position on the application.
It's actually to Sunday evening at 11 p.m, isn't it?
11 a.m. on Sunday.
11 a.m, sorry. Yep. Okay, thank you.
I've got Councillor Thompson, Councillor Hawkins and Councillor Hall. Councillor Thompson.
Well, look, I just want to clarify something for myself after Councillor Vandervist's extensive questioning of staff. I'm slightly confused. Are we here to debate the views of staff about this, or to debate the views of the hearings committee about this? I thought that we were here to make a decision on the recommendation of the hearings committee, not to interrogate staff about what their views might be about the merits or otherwise of that decision.
Confirm it's the latter.
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for Mr. Saunders, I think, and it's just with regards to what impact, if any, our decision here today would have on other events that are being staged in that area over the weekend period. I'm thinking particularly of the British High Commission, who will be parked up, or are planning to be parked up over that period. Okay.
So yes, we're aware of the other events that are proposed for that weekend, and access provisions have been made available to them so that they can, physically get into that space and remove things from that space.
Regardless of the outcome of this meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, Sergeant Levin on behalf of the police did actually confirm that if this was not past the closing, they would, under the public safety, they had the powers to close at any rate. So it will be happening one way or the other.
Thank you all. John has moved the recommendations set out on the supplementary agenda. That's A, is the reports, the objections noted, and then B is set out, and C. Is that correct, John?
That's it.
And seconded by Doug. Speakers? Lee.
I'm all in favour of closing the Octagon for the big crowd that's expected on the Saturday. I think it's quite reasonable to expect many thousands of people, and I think most of them will be here for the Saturday, certainly. I'm a little bit concerned that in terms of precedent and in terms of the image we project to the rest of the country, that having the whole of the Octagon closed and Lower Stewart Street closed for the whole weekend, including from 6 a.m. on Friday, essentially at the behest of private enterprise liquor resellers, sends a signal which is a wee bit like the signals that the university has sent for quite some time, in terms of this is a party place where drinking to excess has become part of the culture. Closing the road is fair enough, and if the police are completely convinced that it's necessary to be for that long a time, then I can vote for it. But I am concerned that it does send a signal that the bars have taken over the centre of the city, and that this is what people are expected to come for Dunedin for. And I'm hoping that we have a much wider message than that, and that the visitors to the city for this great game of the All Blacks will do a lot more than simply drink in the Octagon for the 3 days.
Just Councillor Vandervis are just saying the whole of the Octagon. It's only the lower Octagon that's being closed, not the whole of the Octagon.
I'll just make a couple of brief comments. To me, it just seems to be a sensible, safe, practical application, and with the support of the police, you know, at the end of the day, we can put or give them an extra tool in their toolbox to get a successful outcome on the weekend. So the police did indicate that during a test weekend, they don't have any more, what would you say, alcohol-related incidents than they would normally have on a normal Saturday night. Just for your noting. And the other point I would make also is that under recommendation C, when it looks at options at any early opportunity to facilitate discussions about the use of that public space in the Octagon, we have 2 major rugby games next year, 2017. One on the 13th of June and the other one I think is on the 26th of August. 13th of June one is the Highlanders and playing the British Isles, and that's on a Tuesday, and the 26th of August is New Zealand versus Australia. So it would be good if that recommendation could trigger some discussion, and I take on Doug's point, you know, why should we be driving it? But I think it's collectively as council and the business owners and the other stakeholders and interested parties in and around the Octagon should be having a discussion sooner rather than later, looking at those major events next year. And no doubt there are other major events that aren't rugby related that will fit into that category as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Following on from that, really, I would hope also that we did make sure that a more efficient process was followed, so that we don't have to have a special council meeting to do this, and so that the timing of such applications would be better managed by whomever. But I would expect that most people around this table and most people in the city would be entirely supportive of this sort of initiative and closure. This is a really big event, and if we have the sort of negativity that we're seeing here around trying to facilitate good big events that welcome people to the city and where they, after watching the Welsh getting thumped again, can have a really good time, then we're missing out on one of our responsibilities to enhance the attractions the city has to offer. If there are issues around behaviour, they're issues for the licensees and for the police and security to manage, and that will always be the case. And I think we are being extraordinarily unimaginative by raising unnecessary criticisms of a really big event, even if there have been issues with the process. And I think we need to get behind development like this. I'm sure that the use of our city centre should be made in exactly this sort of way, and that the right sort of controls around safety can easily be achieved.
Any further discussion? If not, and remembering Lee's foreshadow motion, if this one fails, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes the council meeting. And also we need to note the minutes of the subcommittee, moved by Dave, seconded by Andrew. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against?